All right, Shalom, Mike. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash. I'd like to give double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. I'd like to say Shalom to the elect that's teaching his word in all true faith and sincerity. And today, I just want to get into a lesson concerning the end of Esau, the so called white man, and his reign of terror. This is what we're witnessing in the planet Earth. These are events are like symptoms, the signs, indicators to the end of an empire. This devil is sick. You know, this nigga really on his deathbed, and these are the signs that we seeing on the planet Earth as things unfold. Ultimately, the results is going to be America's going to be destroyed. So-called white man, his system, his power, all this shit is going to be out the earth as well, man. So matter of fact, let's start off with this in the book of St. Matthew 24. And when we get verse 3, it reads, "And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world?" So really, as reading in between the lines, really the end of the world is a private matter. The Lord only really gave that to the elect when you read that in second as the 8th chapter speaks how the judgment is now at hand, and the Lord only showed it only unto a few. Uh, Daniel, scriptures talk about how Daniel rejoiced because he was given that secret. Was really the that gauge, the rise and fall of kings, who those last major kingdoms that were going to come and go before the kingdom of heaven will be established. Even though Nebuchadnezzar didn't know the understanding of the dream, but he knew it was important. He was sore trouble. Nigga was about to, he was gonna put his wise men to death because they couldn't explain this dream or even give it to him and break it down. The Lord have given us this. Oh, matter of fact, speaking on Daniel 2, let's get that real quick. And I think let me jump down. This is Daniel 2 and I just get to the point. I started verse 27. It reads, Daniel answered in the process of the king, in the presence of the king, and said, The secret which the king have demanded cannot the wise man, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers show unto the king. But there is a power in heaven that revealeth secrets, and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. The dream and the visions of thy head upon the bed are these. So he went into it, really those last major kingdoms. And now we at the point where the toes, verse 44, in the days of these kings, that last little part of the statue, man. And in that, it talks about how the toes will be broken. You've seen it with the Brexit, the Fretsit, Gretsit, these terms of these nations breaking off from their alliances and shit like that. It'll show you where we at in this process, man. Going back to those symptoms, indicators concerning the end of the world. Yes. The chat. This is the book going back to St. Matthew 24, verse 3. It read, And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what should be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? So not when the earth gonna blow up, the end of that age of that kingdom, that rulership. That has always been the requirements of the prophets throughout the ages. Even you had the Lord after his resurrection, they asked the Lord, is it this time you're gonna restore the kingdom? You know, Ezra, uh, when shall be the end of the first? When, you know, things are going to be summed up so we can go back to the continuation of Solomon's rule, because that's just not something that's left in the past. That was just the Bible day. No, that's something that's going to be a continuance. Let me read Psalm 72, but that's going to come after this. But we know that it's not now because of the signs and that's happening on the earth. It says, "And Yahweh Shai answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall call my name, saying, I am the anointed, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." See, a series of evils, man. And it's gonna ultimately be capped off by the way of World War III. That's the icing on the cake, you know, so to speak, the finale. They're saying going out with a bang. We're gonna actually see that play out in its perfection by the way of a kingdom going out by way of World War III. It says, "For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places." See, all these are the beginning of sorrow. See, and just going back, just like a human body, you gonna look at it, niggas starting to become pale, eyes are yellow, ain't making no cognitive sense. They all jacked up in the mind. This is motherfucking nails. They just look all creepy and shit. But ultimately, it's just a sign they about to die. Now, the only thing you can do now is buy the casket. You getting ready for the funeral arrangements. That's the only next step. And you see that in the way by these nations, they jockeying for position. They smell blood in the water. But the scriptures said the one that was never thought of is that's going to wear the crown, man. But you can see these things. It said the beginning of sorrow, so it's going to climax. What's that? When they say Second Ezra 16, talk about the beginning of evils. So it's something at the beginning, it got to end, meaning it's gonna perfect, it's gonna intensify. Second Ezra 9:1. He answered me then and said, Measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. See? And that world is concerning the world of Edom, not just the earth. Now the Lord is making his presence felt and known by setting up his men to declare this judgment. So when it happens, as these things unfold, you can't do nothing but to look to Yahweh by Shema Shai. You know, it says, "Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning." So you got these protests with the ice shit, and then on top of that, the Lord told them niggas they got 85 seconds to midnight, and on top of that, fucking these threats. You got this Russian U.S. Nuclear treaty is about to expire. Concerning the arms race. Goddamn, Trump threatened Iran to sign this deal, or you know what I mean? Shit on top of shit, but we can see the results. America's gonna be destroyed, and this devil ain't gonna have no pieces to pick up. Once the Lord destroy America, once World War III pop off, this devil is gonna Talk about the scepter of the rulers is going to be broken. It says, for like is all that is made in the world have a beginning and the end, and the end is manifest. So you can see that cancer took over. It's a now, motherfucker fighting cancer. But the council won. Now the next step, you know what I mean, is to put this motherfucker down, put them down in a nice soft way, and make their death, you know, ease their death, and come up with the funeral arrangements, man. That's even playing out on a bigger. You can see that just for a man, a human, an individual stand. But now we actually seeing it in its profession with a kingdom. With the end of E is nigh, and we see the symptoms. This nigga got a terminal illness, and it's really prophecy. So yeah, Akim, I just hope this will edify. I'd like to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahushai, by Hashem, Racha, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the elect, the teaching word and our true faith and sincerity. Shalom.